If you are thinking about growing your own strawberries but are not sure how you should get started, I am going to try and go over the main methods to help you decide. This is Lily. Lily wants to remind you to like and subscribe. Now, on with the video. First, I'm going to cover a few strawberry plant basics. Strawberry plants are perennials. They will go dormant in the winter and come back every year in the spring. One thing to note though is that even though these plants will continue to come back every year, they may not continue to produce as much fruit after about 3 or 4 years. But this doesn't necessarily mean you will have to keep buying new plants, roots, or seeds. Now, when you're doing your shopping, the two most common types you will see strawberry plants labeled as is either june-berring or ever-berring. There are other types, such as day neutrals and alpines, but I'm going to try and keep this simple and only go over the variety types that you are more likely to come across in stores or online. First, there is the june-berring type. June-bearing strawberries like to fruit about 2 to 4 weeks once a year, which usually happens to occur in June, hence the name. Now, if you're looking for larger fruits and maybe like to make things with your berries such as jellies, jams, and desserts, a June-bearing variety may be just what you're looking for. I have to mention that it is recommended that you pinch off all or at least most of the flowers on June-bearing plants for the first year you grow these plants. They tell you to do this so that your plants will produce a lot more fruit the following year. Now, since I know every flower I see is about to turn into a strawberry, it's kind of hard for me to just rip off all the flowers when I see them. So if you are also impatient and can't bring yourself to snip off all the flowers, you're not alone. Just try and cut most, or at the very least some of the flowers off this year, so you will get more berries next year. The other common type you will probably come across is the ever-bearing type. Unlike June-bearing strawberries, ever-bearing strawberries produce more than one time a year, usually 2 or 3 times. And unlike the June-bearing, you can start harvesting the first year. It's important to note that even though ever-bearing plants fruit more often than the June-bearing kind, overall you will end up getting less fruit from an ever-bearing plant. Since the ever-bearing do not produce as much as the June-bearing, they tend to be a better option for someone that likes to eat berries straight off the plant. It's not a bad idea to do what I'm doing this year and grow both if you can. Now that you're hopefully feeling a little more confident knowing what to look for when you go shopping, let's get into the different ways of growing them. First, I'll start with the most difficult method, which is from seed. Some strawberry seeds are teeny tiny and produce itty-bitty delicate seedlings. If you are new to seed starting and decide to grow your own strawberries from seed, don't get discouraged if it doesn't go well for you. They aren't the easiest type of seed to grow. I like to start plants from seed. This year I decided I was going to start strawberries from seed. I got a couple of different varieties from a couple of different places I found online. I discovered that most of the seeds I was finding were more expensive than I was anticipating. I did find some cheap alpine seeds, but I had a hard time getting them to germinate. The seed company suggests that you should cold stratify the seeds if you are having trouble getting them to germinate. To cold stratify seeds, you need to place them into an airtight container, then into the refrigerator or freezer for at least 2 weeks before sowing them. Even after cold stratifying my seeds for more than 2 weeks, I still had trouble getting them to germinate. Luckily, I did have much better luck with the more expensive seeds. I was very excited when I got almost all of the variety called Berries Galore Hybrid Pink to start. I'm still trying to figure out how to get those alpine seeds to germinate. If by chance you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments down below. You may be wondering if you could use the seeds off of a strawberry that you have bought or grown yourself. There are many ways to save seeds from strawberries. Personally, I would only do this as an experiment since your outcome is going to be unpredictable and unreliable. But if you do decide to try saving your own seeds, I would recommend you try to find an heirloom variety. I think that they will give you your best chance for success. An easier way to grow strawberries is to buy what they call bare roots. The trickiest part about growing bare root strawberries is knowing just how deep to plant them. Too high and you won't have healthy plants. Too deep and it could rot or just not be able to produce anything for you. Since they are in a dry and dormant state when you get them, you will need to soak them in a bucket of water anywhere from 20 minutes to several hours. Just make sure to follow the directions that came with your roots. Now finally, the easiest method is to just buy strawberry plants. You may be wondering, why doesn't everybody just do it that way? Well, the biggest reason is money. Since it's a lot easier to ship and sell bare roots, they are able to sell them for a lot less. But if you are new to gardening and have tons of plants, this may be a better option for you. You won't have to worry about how deep to plant them as you do with bare roots. And as long as you keep the soil level of your plant level with the soil where you are planting them, you should be just fine. Now there's one more thing I wanted to talk to you about. Runners. Runners are basically little baby plants that grow out from adult plants. Botanically speaking, these babies are referred to as daughters. Most June-bearing plants will have a ton of runners, but you are less likely to get a lot of runners from an ever-bearing plant. Runners use up a good bit of energy for your plant to produce. So, if you're not looking to get more plants, you can just trim them off as soon as you see them. If you are growing plants in the ground or in a raised bed, watch out for those runners, especially if you are growing the June-bearing kind, since your berry patch can double in size way faster than you are expecting. Now, I like to grow my strawberries in containers. To get the new plants off of the runners and into a new container, what I like to do is set up an additional planter next to the mother plant and kind of train the daughter plants into them. Before the little daughter plant starts to root, I place a landscape staple on the runner stolon, which is one of these pieces here between the two plants, to hold it in place where I want it to grow. These are some that I did last year. Once the daughter plant gets its roots well established, the runner stolons can be cut. Or you can just let them die back naturally like I did here. By the way, the brown leaves you see here are from last year. I will be removing them soon. The green leaves you see here are new growth for this year. And those are the ways you can start your own strawberries. Which way are you going to start your strawberries? Let me know in the comments below. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe.